knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Thunder strike. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Yeah. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Yeah. Clothesline. Shoot! Over here. Over here. Close. Shooting the bomb. Over here. Shoot! Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Close line. Over here. Thunder strike. Close line. Spinning knuckleball over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Clothesline over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle thunder. Right. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. 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 Clothesline, 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 clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline.
Target locked.
Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb.
Backup requested.
Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Yeah. Close line. Close line. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Close line. Over here. Close line. Close line. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Low slide. Over here. Yeah. Low slide. Spinning knuckle bomb. Yeah. Low slide. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Low slide. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Low slide. Low slide. Low slide. Low slide. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Low slide. Low slide. Low slide. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Yeah. Close slide. Close slide. Close slide. Close slide. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Yeah. Close line. Close line. Thunder strike. Over here. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Close line. Close line. Close line. Close line. Close line. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Yeah. Over here. Close line. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Thunderstrike. Yeah. Hitting knuckleball. Over here. Thunderstrike. Clothesline, clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Thunderstrike. Thunderstrike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunderstrike. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. 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 Thunderstrike. Yeah. Yeah. Over here. Thunderstrike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Thunderstrike. Yeah. Over here. Thunderstrike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Thunderstrike. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Hitting knuckle bomb. Over here. Yeah. Thunderstrike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Over here. Thunderstrike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. knuckleball. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Yeah. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Yeah. Yeah. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Clothesline. 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 Yeah. Spinning knuckleball. Over. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Thunder. Right. Spinning knuckleball. Spinning knuckleball. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Yeah. Clothesline. Getting up a bomb. Over here. Over here. Thunderstruck. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunderstrike. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Getting up a bomb. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Spinning knuckleball. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Thunderstrike. Thunderstrike. Yeah. Spinning knuckleball. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Getting knuckleball. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Thunderstrike. Yeah. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunderstrike. Clothesline. Getting knuckleball. Thunderstrike. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Yeah. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Yeah. Clothesline. Over here. Thunder strike. Yeah. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Yeah. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline, clothesline, clothesline. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Over here. Thunder strike. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Thunder strike. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Clothesline. Clothesline. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Yeah. Over here. Thunder strike. Yeah. knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. 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 Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. 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 Over here. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Over here. Clothesline. Over here. Over here. Yeah. Clothesline. Clothesline. Thunder strike. Thunder strike. Yeah. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle thunder. Spinning knuckle bomb. Over here. Spinning knuckle bomb. Clothesline. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb. Spinning knuckle bomb.